What's going on? My name is Isaac Miller, and welcome to my channel, Tune Up Your Mind. So, I'm here to discuss a very important subject, and you might be wondering what that is. So, I'm going to discuss how we can learn from life regarding setbacks, especially the ones that we experience in a religious way, but it actually should have been a spiritual thing. So, setbacks in life from religion. Not only that, I'm going to share a few things about myself, and I'm going to give you a little sample treat at the end. Now, I know my audience regarding my subscribers are eclectic. So I have religious people, I have atheists and agnostics, which are still religious people, but in a different way, more spiritual, but with a different set of belief systems. I have book readers and I have poetry lovers. So toward the end, I'm going to give 2 to 3 bars of a freestyle, or you can call it a little poetry, however you want to look at it. Now, when I was in high school, I used to do some battle rapping, and I've always loved that, and I like clean stuff. So I'm like a kid in a candy store, especially when I go to poetry battles and I see each poet and they square off against one another. And like it's a word game, the genius of the words. And this person is saying things and the crowd is getting involved. They're hyped, they're ooh, like I love it. Like, have you ever seen like a battle dance of things like 8 Mile with Eminem? If you didn't know that about me, I love words. I love a poetry battle. I love a rap battle. I love it. I love it. I'm like a kid in a candy store. Like, what you got? So, and they're going back and forth, and I'm eating it up. I love it. Like, you will see a big smile on my face. My teeth is shining bright. And I like to do that myself. So now I'm more of a writer, and I definitely feel like I can write things for other people. So when I come to writing, I like writing books, poetry. I write on anything, fiction, nonfiction, science, religion, doesn't matter. I write everything. Now, when it comes to poetry, I always like to do things where people walk away better. I always believe in investing in one's mind, where we learn and we grow together and we become better. But it's all fun. And words are the key to one's soul. So our words can elicit feelings, good or bad, and we need to relax sometimes and have fun in life. So with that said, I want to start off with this opening thought for today's theme, and this is public talk number 3. When you look at your life, when you look at where you are now, when you look at where you're going, when you look at your vision for yourself, when you see that sometimes we all have this cultural spiritual shock. And what I mean by cultural spiritual shock is this. We all sometimes become so absolute and rigid in our thinking that we forget that the world is very complex. In order to grasp something that's simple, it must first be complex to us. And then even then, the complexity of what's simple is still not simple. We just put it in a framework that helps our mind comprehend it to explain. A good example of that is explaining God. But we know that God is way more complex than that. It's like the difference between experience and a theory. See, a lot of young men will have ideologies about women, and women are great. But I remember watching a lot of love stories when I was younger, and I can tell you, life is not like those love stories. Now, from a 10-year-old's perspective, they would say, hey, just buy the flowers, say, hey, I love you, and things are going to go great. There's some truth to that statement, nice guys finish last. Now, I think, of course, when people mature, they learn to appreciate the niceness. And sometimes it's just the individual that may not know how to appreciate kindness being given to someone or being given to her. But with that said, there was an older guy that thought that I was being too nice to a few sisters. And he said, and I was trying to explain to him, well, hey, that's your experiences. I think he was maybe 50 years old at the time. And he said, a theory is at the mercy of experience. Now, he wasn't trying to say just because how things transpire with him, that it would go exactly that way for me. But it wasn't until I realized that he was right that I realized I was coming with my theories. And it was at the mercy of experience. So likewise, when I think about wisdom and experience wisdom, I realize today that we have to experience wisdom in a physical form before we grasp it in a mental form. So everything that you're going through life, that pain, that feedback, that chemical rush that your brain is giving you, saying, hey, this religious trauma or this relationship breakup that I experienced, or I don't know why God allows suffering, or why does evil things exist, or why does these things seem to have a discrepancy, whatever it may be, it doesn't feel good. But while you're growing through that, if you use it and harness it to your will, just like working out, that pain produces growth no matter what. Now, sometimes we don't know how much growth can come from our pain, but it's dependent on how much we decide to go through it. Now, that old saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I've always found issues with that. It's true, but it has to be stated this way. If you endure it, it'll make you stronger, because some things will literally take you out. You have to endure it to get stronger. So if you endure it, it'll make you stronger, but sometimes it can kill you. So here's the point. Where's your endurance? I want to read Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 8. And 1 Peter 2:21 says, Jesus left us a model to follow him closely. And I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe in Jesus Christ. And I aim to be like him as much as I possibly can. And I'm constantly working on it. But here's something significant, because Jesus is the ultimate leader to me. He's the reason why I'm able to have hope in life. And he's the reason why I'm able to have forgiveness of my sins. Hebrews 5:8. Although he was a son, he learned obedience from what he suffered. After he was perfected, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him. And he was declared by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. And that's Hebrews 5:8-10. So Jesus learned obedience from the things that he suffered. Now, Jesus was the one that said, happy is one that's conscious of his spiritual need, Matthew 5:3. He did not say happy is one conscious of his religious need. True spirituality, when worshiping God in spirit and truth, or if it's not truth based on the concept of God, but just our individuality that we have the right to express, according to 1 Corinthians 2:9-11. Our own journey where we are looking out and discovering other aspects of life that's still connected to God, whether it be emotional, physical, mental, social, or cultural. And then we use our belief, which is our spiritual domain, our outlook on life. When beliefs are correct, thinking is correct. When thinking is correct, beliefs are correct. But we have to often decide, if I have incorrect thinking, it comes from incorrect beliefs. Or if I have incorrect beliefs, did it come from incorrect thinking? So it's important to sync our subconscious and our conscious together. See, our subconscious becomes our belief system, but our consciousness can only think with the reservoir that's inside the subconscious until we recognize it. Consciously, we can take out what's in our subconscious or replace it. So here's what I want to say. Jesus learned obedience from the things he suffered. When you look at his life and his ministry, when you look at your ministry, are we all not bearing things similar to what Jesus said when he said that a slave is not greater than his master? If they have persecuted me, they have persecuted you. But we have to also understand when persecution is coming from being a follower of Christ versus our own persecution that's just coming from not doing the right things in life. And that's often gets people in trouble. Now, that is not for me to determine or to judge, but it's for you to approach God in prayer to know when suffering is coming from actually following Christ. And with that being said, if Jesus did it, although he was perfect, we can do it because he said you would do great things greater than me. So when you look back at heartbreaks that you have seen in your personal life, when you think about the ability to learn obedience from it, obedience in its truest sense is the ability to learn from the laws of life and to be able to have applied application. So as you're going through this experience pain or this experience wisdom, now in hindsight, you can connect the dots. You can say, hey, this is how I did it. And that's the beauty of making mistakes and learning from them. But if you don't learn from them, that's when you become a fool. Now, this also reminds me of James 4:17, where it says, he who knows what's right to do and he who fails to do it is a sin for him. Now, that is the principle of being right versus doing what's right. So how do you determine that? It's simple. You always go with the decision where all parties involved stand to benefit the most, even parties that don't exist. You're thinking about the future generations. You're thinking about onlookers that you don't even know. See, what we do for others when we die, we take with us, rather, or what we do for ourselves, rather, or let me restate that. What we do for others, we leave behind when we pass away. But what we do for ourselves, we take with us. So I always ask myself, and I encourage you to ask yourself, what will you leave behind? And it's always good to leave behind examples of love. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village also to raise all of us adults. So the more of us that's coming together to learn from our experiences in life, and we put these things together productively to help one another, we grow in so many ways. And this is why a Christian testimonial or a testimonial of overcoming in an underdog story always resonates with people, because that's the truth that you can't take away. When someone is coming to you with their facts and you're living proof that you have defied those facts. When somebody says you can't do that, it's impossible, and then you've done it. See, here's what you've done if you're here today. You've overcome religious abuse. You've overcome perhaps a heartbreak, or you're overcoming it. You're also investing in your dreams. You understand that gifts are inherent. You don't teach a bird how to fly. You don't teach a fish how to swim. You don't teach a butterfly how to become a butterfly. It swarms in the cocoon, and then a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. See, when you truly grasp that true gifts, natural ones, now some people believe that you have to develop your gifts. You do, but you always have to have a naturalness with it. There's a difference between gifts and talent. You see, I've discovered, and I wrote a book about this. I haven't published it yet. It's in a book that I wrote called The Blueprint for Living Inspired. It's like 40,000 words. But I have a whole chapter where I delineate talent versus a gift. You see, talent is a skill set that you work on. And a gift is inherent that you naturally or come with. Now, you can have, as an example, you can have a gift of writing, but that's broad. How are you going to manifest writing? You may decide to manifest it as a sports writer or a songwriter. See, now you're shaping the talent. So you have the gift of writing, but you form the talent of songwriting as an example. See, talent specifies the gift. You see what I'm saying? So someone may have the ability to practice medicine, but they can't be every type of doctor. They have the gift. So they have to become an orthopedic surgeon versus an anesthesiologist, as an example, although they can know one about each other. See, identify the gift and then mold it into a talent, or sometimes several talents. Some people have several gifts. A true gift also is used to elevate others. It's a gift of value. See, it's like looking at a tree. When an apple falls from a tree, that fruit is no good unless someone eats it. So whatever gifts we all have is meant to be shared. And you also have spiritual gifts. And with that being said, you take your gifts and you invest in them and attach it to your spirituality as you keep shaping your beliefs and having correct thinking and correct believing to learn from what you've experienced in life and have wisdom. And that's what Jesus did. He learned obedience from the things that he suffered. So he showed us the way, and he understands now, that's why he's our mediator, of what it means to be a man. And he understands those things that we go through. So with that being said, are you going to invest in your spiritual needs? Are you going to keep learning, keep investigating things, and keep growing as an individual, whilst being mindful of James 4:17, We have to think about others. We have to care about others. See, love is the highest frequency that we can put out into the universe. Are you emanating love? Are you vibrating with it? When people look at you, do they see that? When they look at me, do they see that? Let's all continue to love together, because there's no stronghold that the devil can do when we start with love. He won't even bother people that's trying to truly do love. He'll try to taint you, but he understands that a heart of love cannot be corrupted with evil and hatred. As Nelson Mandela once said, if a man can be taught to hate, he can be taught to love. So when you look at people hating, you have to give that person love and live it to overcome that hatred. And people that are unwilling to do that, they need to just get out of the way. They're only making the world worse. They're not making it better. Now, you don't have to like everyone. You don't like the state that they're being in, but you should love what they're capable of becoming. There's a difference between capability and ability. As an example, a man is not capable of getting pregnant because he doesn't have the ability to be. So in order to be capable, you must first have the ability. So you must identify what your ability is and then make it capable. A lot of people are loaded with abilities that they don't make capable. See, you're loaded with the ability of spirituality, but you can't make it capable by being religious. The ghetto of religiosity. Here's the point. Let's activate our gift of spirituality with that ability and then make it capable. Let's constantly change the way that we think and align it with how we believe. And then look at our beliefs and look what it's producing. If we don't like the results, let's change it. But also, sometimes we must stand alone as warriors in life, and everybody may disagree with us. Just because you're walking alone doesn't mean that you're right. Often, this is a season where God is prepping you for some change. Sometimes he wants to eliminate everyone that's around you and have you alone, like he did with Abraham and Moses. When you think about it, God always sometimes separates people so that you can hear his voice clearly and learn to rely on him. And then He's an on-time God. So when he comes through, you'll know that he was the one that was doing it without a doubt in your mind. And that experience is for you to know, to realize that God is greater than the Bible, that he can't be summarized with just that. And that's what I want to leave you with. So here's the point. Here's the summary. Will you be bold enough to practice Hebrews 11:1? Now, what is that? Let's read it. Now, faith is the reality of what is hoped for, the proof of what is not seen. For by this our ancestors were approved. Faith is very scientific, and I'm going to do a topic about that on another day. Everything that we have faith in is based on reality and objectivity. Even sometimes when we don't know that it's objective, will be manifested in reality. But it's first manifested in the reality of your mind and your spirit. And this is why sometimes people don't understand your goals and dreams, because it's not given to them. They're not inside your head. You are capable of doing some incredible stuff. And this is a great opportunity for you as a human being to realize that there will never be another you. So do you have faith in yourself? And by having faith in yourself, you automatically have faith in what God made you capable of. Everything you've seen right now is not your true potential. That was yesterday. Where are you going to be today and tomorrow? And that's what I want to leave you with. So I said that I would drop 2 or 3 bars for my poetry fans. And here we go. Listen up. Listen, love is tragic. It's tricky like magic. It's extraordinary, far beyond average. It adds extra weight like a baby in the carriage. It gets graphic, so hopefully commemorate love is photographic. So I'll leave you with that. And again, I love freestyle battles. I write lots of poetry. Sometimes I like to just battle with people, but I'm very competitive with that. So I like to be looked at as the underdog. I like to have this unassuming appearance. I like to do that with debates too. I love watching a good debate. I'll get off on that. Whether it's a sports debate, I just like watching that. But people don't know how to prepare for somebody that they don't see coming. So that's why I like it like that. I just like to sit back and observe for a long time and study everybody. And then when I come in, I'm coming in strong. Believe that. So like, subscribe, comment, share your thoughts, and have a wonderful weekend. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.